When I was little, my father was famous. He was the greatest samurai in the empire.
So he comes and he says 2 millimeters law pathetic. And I found it interesting that he says it because the whole point of this this exercise, the demo that I did, was a proof of concept. People like Mr. Marble like to say that refraction doesn't exist at all, and at least lasers don't get refracted. For some reason, they think things like lasers are special. And reason I bring that one up is because it leads to the next question, which was a legitimate question from Frank Kelly. He wants to know what this terrestrial refraction is and what the flat Earth crowd thinks it does. And it's a very good question. Let's see here. There is refraction. Light refracts. That is just a fact. And when we talk about atmospheric refraction due to the air in the atmosphere of the Earth, generally they talk about two types of refraction. Those astronomers will say, or people will talk of celestial refraction, and they'll talk about terrestrial refraction. And celestial refraction is about objects that are outside of the Earth's atmosphere coming in and sending the light coming into the Earth's atmosphere and interacting. Terrestrial refraction is about things within the Earth's atmosphere that are already on Earth, whether or not they're physically on the ground, they're already within the influence of the Earth's atmosphere. So celestial refraction is for things that are outside of the Earth. Terrestrial refraction are things that are within the influence of the Earth's atmosphere. And the reason there's any distinction is that terrestrial refraction, celestial refraction coming in from the stars, from the sun and stars, always bends in such a way to make the objects seem higher than they are. Which in other words they bend down, which makes them seem like here's a light. The light, instead of just going straight, bends down. So that when you look at it, you think it's higher up. Okay, so celestial refraction are things when they come into the atmosphere, they always seem a little higher above the horizon than they actually are due to the bending of the light when it comes into the denser atmosphere. The fact that there is atmosphere makes it a denser medium, and so it automatically refracts. Terrestrial refraction is slightly different. For the most part, in general, light will refract down. Objects will seem higher than they are because in general, there's more dense air toward the bottom, and it's there's a gradient, atmospheric gradient. So in general, there's denser air down here, thinner air up here. So since it's going through a denser medium, it refracts down. That's in general. But there are circumstances where the lower atmosphere or another section of atmosphere may be hotter or warmer than an atmosphere above, thus it's less dense, and thus it will refract up. So that's why there's a difference between celestial refraction, which is always refracting down and making things look higher, while in terrestrial refraction, it generally refracts down, making things look higher. But under some circumstances, if the temperatures are right, things will refract up and objects will look lower. That's the difference. But flat earthers seem to think, and this is from what I hear from them, is that terrestrial refraction is means objects that are on the earth, like mountains and buildings and things like that, as opposed to things over the water or just general ambient light. They seem to want to think that terrestrial refraction means physical objects on the earth refract differently. or that's what they're saying that we're saying, when it's actually just about the difference in temperature gradients and things like that. So whenever someone says, you know, you guys believe in terrestrial refraction, it's just, they either don't know what they're talking about or they're being disingenuous. Terrestrial refraction isn't about physical objects or attached to the earth or anything like that. It's just about the way light already within the atmosphere reacts, as opposed to light that's outside of the atmosphere reacts. All right. Oh, another Frank. Hold on. Our good friend Frankie. All right. Now, this is a FMA, Frank Michael Alba. First, let's all be happy that Frank finally figured out how to turn off his caps lock. So, somewhere amongst all the comments, RHKGL asked about the status of the Polar Explorer flight. And Frank wraps it in a bunch of nonsense. I'm surprised he didn't mention President Obama in here, because for some reason he just got a thing about Obama. So what's the status? First, there's my status, which I'm just gathering things together, getting my stuff in order, trying to figure out the different things I need. You're only allowed to have I think up to 42, like 40 pounds. I can't remember exactly what it is. I'll have to look it up. But you're only allowed to take so much on board with you. There's no carry-ons, there's no baggages that are going to be checked or anything like that. It has to be your one bag with all your stuff in it, because it's just basically a carry-on. That's all you get to have. And so I have to balance, 5 days worth of clothing, because I have to go there and come back, and I have to have everything there with whatever I want to bring. I have my standard GPS unit here. These Bad Elf folks, they also make a phone attachment that just attaches here. It looks like an extended battery. I'm going to get one of those. I think it's like $150. So I'm going to get one of those guys. It looks like an extended battery. So if for some reason, which I don't think is going to happen, if someone decided, oh, you can't take something like this, which has never happened yet, then I'll still have a GPS that looks just like an extended phone battery. It does the same thing. It just doesn't have its own screen interface. It uses the phone as the interface. So I'll be doing that as well. I'm just going to put this thing on a lanyard hanging on the outside of my carry-on, like it's just a thing, like it's nobody's business. I'm looking at good compasses. I want to get a southern hemisphere compass, and in addition to a northern hemisphere compass, so I can watch the difference in the way they react. The flight is scheduled for October 27th. I think I'm flying out on the 26th, 27th. I have to look it up. And so that's when it's scheduled. Now, there is a disconcerting fact that if you go to the overthepoles.com, overthepoles2018.com website, it is down. It somehow got detached from its Wix account. I don't know, just if they were just kind of paying it on a regular basis and they forgot to renew the darn thing. I don't know. The domain name is registered through the end of the year, which makes sense to only have it for the end of the year, because after 2018 they don't need to have that domain name anymore. It could be something as simple as they got a 6-month Wix account and they forgot to renew the thing. Or it could be something, more nefarious, like the flat earthers would like to believe. But, it looks like the DNS Anon is not up yet. It looks like the DNS doesn't go until November. But it might be just that they didn't renew the Wix account, or the whatever. I think it's Wix. They probably got a temporary account and they just didn't renew it on time. So I have a call into my contact. I have a number of someone that I've discussed things with. He's not in charge of the website or anything like that, but at least I can maybe get some information. So I've sent a text and an email out to that person. So that's the current status of things. So that's about as much information I can give in terms of where things are. People keep saying, "Why haven't you done it yet?" It's like, it's not like I can make the thing happen faster than the schedule. So I haven't taken the money and bought a boat or anything like that. I bought a ticket. That's it. So from Diamond Canterbury, I'm a fan that used to hate on you. Please make a video explaining why NASA admits that they destroyed the technology to get to the moon. Explain why they taped over all original video and data, and all data was lost. If you can explain this, then I'll be a moon landing believer. But nobody can answer those. If nobody can answer those questions, it's obviously a cover up. Please explain. So, well, right off the bat, Diamond, you've already it's a fault. Your question is a false premise. The idea that if someone can't answer these questions, it's got to be a cover up. You've already kind of set things up for a cover up. You're looking for it. So you're putting yourself in a position where that's what you're gonna find. I'm not gonna make a video on it because I'm not gonna make a video trying to making up answers. So right off the bat, I'm not gonna make a video making up answers. So why NASA admits they destroyed the technology going to get to the moon? I'm gonna keep this up here so you guys can understand the bullet points I'm going through. So first off, you say NASA admits they destroyed the technology to get to the moon. Oh, hey, Diamond, this is your question. Nice. So how did NASA admit that they destroyed it? Did they say how it was destroyed? People say NASA says they destroyed it. And I think what they're picturing is that they went out and they said, what is that? That's the stuff that went to the moon? Burn it. Burn it all. And that's not what happened. First off, most of the stuff that NASA had was let me go back on screen here because most of the equipment that NASA had used during the missions were for the missions. And so if you take the rocket up and you drop it, it's done. Thank you very much, Jason. Keep fighting a good fight. You too. So you go up in the mission, you jettison the rockets, they fall into the ocean, they're done. They're destroyed. You leave stuff on the move, it's on the moon, it's done. It's gone. So most of the stuff was like one-use things. You use it and it's gone. It's destroyed. They destroy it in the act of using it. And then there were other things that you can have held in storage for possible use, but without upkeep and without funding to keep things going, they fall apart. They're no good. They have shelf lives. And even if they want to do something again, they're not going to use that. They're going to use something else. They're going to use a new, better thing. Just because it worked then doesn't mean you're going to hold on to it and use the same thing. Yes, with the exception of the reusable rockets now, but back then it wasn't reusable. They just you used it and it's like a bottle rocket. Okay, it's done. It's spent. It's a payload. Now, and that's the whole point of the stuff that Musk is trying to do, is to have these reusable rockets so that they're not destroyed. So when they say NASA destroyed it, it was a flippant thing to say, and so it allows a lot of interpretation. So this is also my interpretation, to be honest. That's why I'm not making a video on it, because I don't know the exact way things were done. Yeah. So I can't say, I'm not going to make a video basically saying, ask NASA. I'm not going to make a video on So explain why they taped over all the original video and all data was lost. Well, all data was not lost. It wasn't. And also, why did they tape over the original video? First off, there was several versions of original video. There was why did I do 3 for quotes? That made no sense. When the broadcast happened, they recorded it in several formats at the same time. They recorded it on whatever videotape that they had. They did it on with television cameras. They put a thing on the wall and they recorded it that way. They also used a telemetry tape, which is a high quality tape to record the incoming data, because even if it's video, it's still bits of data. That's all it is. And so the video that was lost was the high quality telemetry data of the Apollo mission. And so, but there were other copies on other formats that were recorded at the same time that they still have. That's why they're able to, upload things, because it's not like there was one copy and that's gone and now they're just making stuff up. There was several copies made at the same time in different formats. They're just of different quality. And then copies were made after that. And so when the original telemetry tapes, and when they talk about the telemetry tapes, they're not talking about the telemetry data tapes. They're talking about the telemetry tapes that were used for recording the video. When those were mishandled for whatever bureaucratic nonsense that went on, those were lost, but the other versions were not. Yeah, no, isn't that awesome? This shirt, I saw it and I had to get it. I'll put a link in the description after I'm done. Yeah, I'm not real. So film the tape the digital things. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. In the last part of this. Oh, and if you can explain it, you'll be a believer. But I don't know if that was good enough for you. Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. This person is relatively new to the comment threads. It seems has been putting in a lot of time. So GreaterSapien, one of my favorite unoriginal insults. I'm surprised one of them haven't tried to pick up a GreaterSapien YouTube username just to try to use it against me. Come on, guys, get on it. GreaterSapien just debunked the idea that we could shoot a laser to the moon. That whole idea is just as blah, 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 as that betas fall for, betas. Oh, another manhood comment. So biting. So the premise behind Christopher's comment is that if in my criticism of Daryl, I talked about how, he didn't factor in the dispersion of the beam and how big it would have gotten over the distance. And the main part of that is that when it gets low toward the water, there's a tremendous amount of refraction when you're way toward the water. If you get like 30, 40 feet up, the refraction is not as much, but when you get down close to the water, there's a lot of refraction. So once you got that beam that spreads out and gets close to the bottom, then you have issues. So, but this Christopher's point is trying to say that, well, if the beam spreads out, then how could the beam ever get to the moon? Because obviously you haven't been able, you spread out and it's too big, and so people aren't bouncing things off the moon and bringing it back, and so that's obviously fake. And this is, of course, someone who doesn't know what is actually going on when they're bouncing things off the moon. And I'm sure Christopher Wentz in there will supplement me if I say anything incorrect here. But first off, people who are shooting lasers toward the moon have better lasers. let's just deal with that. They have better lasers. But they also have lasers that are of very specific wavelengths and are sent in and I believe they send them in signal patterns. But so it's not just that it's just a light and they shoot it off and they see it come back. They shoot a very specific wavelength. It's not just like, oh, there's light going all over the place. It's a very specific wavelength that they can then see when it comes back. When they get just a few photons back, it's at that wavelength. And they're like, that's the one. It's like there's all sorts of cosmic noise going on. There's all sorts of light bouncing around, but there's a specific wavelength that they're looking for coming back. There's what it's called retroreflective mirrors up there. Basically, if you guys don't know, or anybody who doesn't, if you think of the reflectors on a bicycle, they're a collection of small retroreflective mirrors, which basically send a light beam directly back in the direction that it came from. You encounter it, it encounters it. We're going to the corner of my video here. So it encounters it there, bounces there, and then comes back down in the opposite direction, directly back. Ann is saying pulse laser short control. Yes, and retroreflective. You're saying. So it's not like they're just shining a blanket laser out there, and it does spread out, and so not much hits the receiver, the retroreflector that they're going for, but it comes directly back. One, they know where it is, so they can also aim for it. But it comes directly back, and then they get those signals. So that is how they're doing it. It's not just like he is just like off the counter. We're going to just point a laser and see what happens. So that. Hopefully, I answered that one clearly enough. I mean, there's a ton of detail on these things, but hopefully that's kind of a high-end, top-down understanding of it.
That's my job. That's what I do. I don't lose. I win. Is there no one on this planet to even challenge me?
Maybe you came by from